Let's check out one of my absolute favorite drummers, Jojo Mayer. We're gonna listen all the way through it and then we'll discuss some of what he's doing. This is Jojo Mayer Nerve, Ghosts of Tomorrow, live at the Bunker Studio. And we're also gonna get into some of the new stuff that he's doing, which is a new project. It's really crazy what he's doing. So using AI and everything. So let's check out Ghosts of Tomorrow. For those that you don't know, they do drum and bass, jungle trance, but in a live environment. So all this is happening live. These tones. I love that bass player. Yes! Nice. We'll come back and talk about that. It's so good. Okay, there's a lot to talk about here. So first of all, the thing you notice with Jojo is incredible technique. If you have not looked at his DVDs, I think it's Essential Weapons for the Modern Drummer, something, I don't know, weapons, it's something about weapons, I think. Hand technique and foot technique, they're just incredible deep dives on how he plays the fluidity. He's just, fluidity personified. Watch how he's improvising. Even though he's improvising, there's such an intentionality in each hit that he's doing. So the thing that makes this very hard for them to achieve is the same thing that makes what the Roots do in Questlove so hard to achieve. The Roots are organically reproducing rap and hip hop, which is a sampled type of a music form. And you also have this style, drum and bass, trance, jungle, all of that. Mainly we're working with samples instead of electronic music, and he set out to make a group that replicates that in a live fashion. And so you see him doing some very odd things on the drums that you're like, well, it seems odd. Seems like he's carving out a style, and really he's reproducing those loops and everything. So when he's hitting that ride cymbal, it's a very consistent sound, very upfront, very aggressive, and it stays consistent. You'll see him he's very focused on keeping that consistent, because that would have been a sample that was boosted in the mix a little bit, and it kind of drives what's going on there. The way he hits everything, the tones that he's getting, all of that is very curated. Now at 202, we've got just that, we got to listen to that again. So about 202, we've got this single stroke roll that is just insanely clean on a snare that is just tuned tight as a tabletop. This is 157. Listen to this. Here it comes, here it comes. Woo! That is so hard. Okay, so the interplay between the kick and the snare is another thing that would be stylistically correct with what he's doing, and again, if you want to kind of get into this style and understand where he's coming from with what he's drumming, every style has kind of like, okay, you can go deep and you can get like deep in the jungle and trance. You know, you're like 4 layers deep and, you know, 5 hours later, you know, you're in a dance club somewhere by yourself. You're like, I don't know how I got here. What are mushrooms? How? What is going on? DJ Shadow would be a very good artist for kind of an entry level to get into as an introductory to this style of music and kind of some of the interplay between the kick and the snare that's happening. That was kind of one of my introductions to it. And then I dove deeper into some of the other stuff. So another thing, let's look at stylistic approaches. So we have these cymbal chokes, which seem like small things, 207, and I think it happens again. I made a note here, 214. Right here, that, and it's gonna happen again. Right there. So what's happening there is he's reproducing exactly what a sample would sound like. So they would have dropped a more aggressive, crashing type of a ride sound in there. When you take a sample out, though, it immediately disappears. There's no decay. With a natural cymbal, it would you know, you just go on to the next voice. But stylistically, because they're cutting the sample off, that's what he's recreating there, and that's what's so impressive about some of these sounds, the muting of the drum, all those things. Very intentional and very stylistically correct. Let's go back to 217 right here. The 4 hits on the kick drum. Boom, 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 boom. That is so hard to do, you guys. Boom, 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 boom. I've watched him live several times, and some of the genius of Jojo is how seamlessly he puts in these very hard techniques and he weaves them in there into the music, and it's like it's nothing. I watched him do this. He had 5 bass drum hits in a row. I was at PASIC a few years back, and which was kind of a weird environment to watch Nerve in. I then watched them at Little 5 Points in Atlanta, which I very much more enjoyed. It was just kind of a seedy nightclub, and that was the environment I wanted to see it in. They had a close-up camera. I mean, his bass drum just all of a sudden flew, and you would have missed it. If I wouldn't have been paying attention, I would have missed it. Same thing with the one-handed roll. He did it for like 3 beats, did a crescendo, and he was out. There was no fanfare around it. He just used it musically. Those hits that he's doing the kick drum were missing. They're very hard. He's one of those players that it's like when you transcribe his stuff, he's really not repeating a lot of things. It's really all kind of free flow as it's happening with some planned parts, but he's like 19 layers deep on what is happening there with the sound and the technique that he's playing in. All right, at 230, this fill. I gotta hear it again. Oh, it's so good. Oh! That feels so good. Even the timing of the re-entry where there's this little small glitch all of a sudden between the snare and the crash. So it's so on point with what they're trying to recreate. Okay, let's check out Jojo Mayer and Aaron Navezzi, duo Improv. Now this, I believe, was filmed in December 2019, originally released exclusively on our Patreon, finally publicly available, and we're all happy for that. So this is gonna be a little bit of an improv here. Same studio, I believe. Oh, that cymbal fade was so good. I'm sorry, I gotta hear it one more time. Work on your hand and foot singles and doubles, kids. Nice. Okay, so that cymbal fade, I'm sorry, I had to stop it. It was, the small things like that get me every time. Okay, so we talked about going 19 layers deep on some of the things. So let's look at the layers of mixing of the sound that he does. So you have the initial tuning of the drums, choice of voices, alternate snare for another snare voice, etc. That's level 1. Level 2, and I kind of made a note here because I wanted to make sure to point this out. Level 2 is you have the sound treatment he is putting on the snare, on the drums themselves. So you have those things that are kind of flopping around, those big fat snare drums, tambos, etc. That's level 2. Level 3, how he hits the drums and the cymbals. So mutes them, rebounds them, digs into the head, gives that a small crescendo, hits on the rim, hits in the center, fades, accents, ghosts, all that stuff. That's level 3. Level 4, he has a small mixer to his left, and every time I've seen him live, and he affects the sound electronically as well as triggering, etc. It's crazy impressive, the depth of what he is doing. So not only is he improvising, because it's what this was it was an improv. He's improvising in real time what he's playing, but then he's curating for the listener how it sounds and what is included with that. And it's an incredible feat to be able to think on that many levels at once. I mean, as far as like what he pulls out, when he pulls it out, the guy is like, I don't know, he reminds me of like Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. He's like, what, you thought we were done? No, we're gonna beat you with the trees because the trees are actually part of our army. You didn't know that. And then the trees get up and they're like, oh my God, did you see what Gandalf did? Again, I told you at the beginning, he's one of my favorite drummers, so I'm not gonna gush on and on, but I'm pretty sure he's a wizard on some level. All right, so let's check this out. This is from his new project, really, really interesting. And I wanna take a second and just read what they say here. This is called Me Machine, his new project. It's an adventure in which human performance and the archaic power of drums interact with state-of-the-art generative music technology in real time. I can't believe I said generative correctly. This was put up on Sonar's channel. So let's check out what is going on. I don't really know much about this project. So I believe the technology is reacting to what he is playing, is what's happening. Which is why you'll see his head tilt sometimes. Watch how he dances while he plays. We're gonna come back and talk about that. How his body moves. So fluid. Nice. Nice. That's such an interesting project. Okay, so the depth of tone that he plays with and explores, again, that's what makes this so interesting to watch. So at 114, I wanted to point this out, and I pointed this out in a video with Grayson and Krupman too, and then I think I referenced Jojo in there. Watch this in traditional grip. Watch his hand open up. You see that? How fluid his hands are. So a lot of people get real stuck into like how we're supposed to hold the sticks. It's always, you will see, I played this, but not like Jojo, but I try to play with this as relaxed as I can, and the stick moves in my hand. That is something I had to redo after well into my career, because I saw players playing like this, and the stick becomes kind of a part of their hand. You'll see his hand kind of open it up. In other words, you don't have to stay strictly like this. It opens up depending on what the sound he wants, or maybe you'll see Grayson de Krupman use his thumb just as much as he uses a finger here in traditional grip. And so I just kind of wanted to point that out. And again, I pointed this out in other things. The biggest motion our wrist can do is not this, and it's not here in French position or German position. It's not that. It's actually the internal and external rotation of the wrist. That is the biggest motion that our wrist can do. All right, so can we talk about how he dances while he plays? And you can look at some of the greats, Steve Gadd, Steve Jordan, Brian Blade, a ton of others. When they are playing, they are dancing with the instrument. They are not sitting there, and you saw the bass player in an earlier video. He's very much moving with what he was playing. He was dancing with how he was playing. And this is something that it's not distracting. He's moving with the instrument, so he's not forcing what's happening. He's just kind of letting that kind of flow through him and move with what's going on. And it's just, again, it's something that's you observe, and it's like, oh, let me look at his double period. It's like, wait a second. Let's skip the double period. We know what that is, right? Let's look at how he's moving while he's playing, because that has everything to do with how he interprets what's going on and how that feels. You also see his head tilt every now and then, and I believe that, I need to read more about this project, I believe it's reacting to what he's playing. So it's almost like you'll see an animal like tilt their head as in like, don't understand, or you'll see them kind of do their head like that, and then they react, and that's very much what this reminds me of, is like, oh, okay, I see you did that, point, counterpoint, let me do this over here. So let's check out another video from this project, Me Machine, longer one. Looks like he's got ebony heads on there. Way different setup. That snare is cranked up. Cymbal chokes again. Notice his setup's completely different this time. Looks like a Simmons pad up in front of him. He sets it up different, by the way, because it makes him play different. This would be the reason. Different choices. Interplay between the bass and the snare. yeah, punch it. Just punch it. Again, just an incredible display. I can't say enough good about Jojo. I can't wait to see how this project kind of unfolds.